Good morning. My name is Laura McGee, and I'll be your service associate this morning. Welcome, everyone, and especially our visitors, to this gathering hosted by the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green. I ask you now to please make sure your cell phones are set to silent. We are a welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, and whoever you love, you are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we can honor and learn from our wide array of traditions and beliefs. Today, our speaker is the Reverend Seth Carrier-Ladd. Though we each walk our own path, here in this place, on the land of the Osage, the Cherokee, and the Shawnee, we journey together as one community. For Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is a symbol of the light of learning and the love of our community. This morning, our chalice will be lit by Remington. As our congregation's chalice is lit, please light your own chalice at home, if you have one, and join us in humming hymn 362, Rise Up, O Flame. Our opening words this morning will be read by Diane Lewis and Natalie Barman.
Dear organizing school team. Sorry. Dear organizing school team. Thank you for listening to my reservations in Breakout today about using the word faith alongside politics. Having a very diverse religious background and heavily influenced by science, I come to UUism in a different way. I appreciate UUism for bringing disparate faith groups together.
I understand completely, Natalie, from where you are coming. Very few UUs were raised in this faith, and many have similar stories about searching and leaving for one reason or another. Faith, God, religion are all words with which we struggle as they carry baggage. I consider myself a humanist, and in humanity I have faith. Both science and spirituality feed my soul as well. When I hear God, I think of the universe and all things incomprehensible. Yet this individual path that I follow, along with the UU principles, makes my religion. Like Lisa Del Porto said, we need to take these words and own them and not let the right define our beliefs or insist that there is only one true path. At a UUSJ event that I attended, several speakers explained how powerful it was to speak to legislators as a faith-based organization because you're introducing yourself to them with the perception that you represent congregations of like-minded people, all who vote. Our principles are not unique. However, we don't couple them with creeds and scripture. They keep us grounded in shared values.
Thank you for responding, Diane. I understand what you're saying. I have resisted using the word faith in the past. Today, I researched the word faith. The philosophers and theologians dissect and analyze all the different types of faith all over my head. The secular and everyday uses basically mean trust or belief in something. After sitting in a quiet place in my woods and thinking about what I had read, I have formulated what faith means to me. My faith is a belief in the power of love, a deep respect for others, and a desire to connect on a meaningful level. Not just a soft, superficial love, but a deep love that demands meaningful interactions and tough love if appropriate. I realize that this is a tall order, and I fall short most of the time, but that is my guiding light, and it inspires me. Today, thank you for responding. I truly appreciate the conversation. Now I feel confident saying that I'm acting based on my faith. Not UU faith or group faith, but my faith. I own it now, and wow, that feels good.
So we invite you to hum along with us as we sing hymn number 1010, We Give Thanks. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and this far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and this far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
We will now have a few moments for meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. After the silence, you're invited to join in the song Spirit of Life. The words will be on the screen. All right, what a treat we're having this morning. Yes. As mentioned earlier, Unitarian Universalists have a wide array of beliefs, and the speakers at our Sunday services come from many traditions. Our speaker this morning is the Reverend Smith Carrier Ladd. The Reverend is currently serving as the interim minister for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Marblehead, Massachusetts. He grew up attending the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence in Northampton, Massachusetts. After graduating from Deerfield Academy, he attended Union College in Schenectady, New York, where he received a bachelor's degree in East Asian Studies. After 6 years working in telecommunications, he went back to school, receiving a Master of Divinity degree from Andover Newton Seminary in 2011. He has 4 children, ages 7 and under, with his spouse, who is also a Unitarian minister. Seth has had multiple opportunities to live, study, and travel abroad, including a year studying in Japan, 6 months living and working in London, and a month in China volunteering, a trip to Australia for the 2009 World Parliament of Religions, 2 weeks in Senegal, and a Unitarian Universalist service trip to Haiti, where he helped lay the foundations for the first 3 houses in a 100-home eco-village for refugees from the earthquake in Port-au-Prince. The talk we will hear today was originally given on March 22, 2015. What we're going to hear today is an audio recording, and so I think you're going to see an image of our speaker, but it's not a moving image. So I invite you to focus your attention up front or out the window, or just a blank spot here in the room to focus on the content of the talk today. So please enjoy. Yeah.
Faith can mean many things. My challenge for us today is to expand our definition so that it doesn't mean just one thing. Because for many of us, we've come to equate the word faith with the idea of blind faith, or unexamined faith, or spoon-fed faith. One of you once shared with me, when I was growing up in my conservative Christian church, a lot of what they were teaching didn't make sense to me, and so I started asking questions. Sometimes they had good answers, but for the really hard questions, for the things that really didn't make sense, the response most of the time was simply, well, you've got to have faith. So I get it. Faith has been ingrained in some of us, perhaps many of us, as something that is grounded in a lack of reason. As Sharon Salzberg astutely notes in her book about faith from a Buddhist perspective, many link faith to narrow-minded belief systems, lack of intelligent examination, or pain at having one's questions silenced. Yes. And faith as blind acceptance is one definition of faith. It's not the only definition, though. We definitely define faith sometimes as a form of belief, and there's also the relational aspect of faith when we use it in the sense of trust, as in having faith in or trusting someone or something. But before we get to these more personal usages of the word, let's go big picture. Because we also use faith sometimes in a much broader sense, talking about our faith tradition, meaning Unitarian Universalism. Or we say that we belong to this faith community, meaning our church. Other times we might say that we are exploring our faith together. In this usage of the word, we're talking about faith as a system of meaning-making and meaning-finding. Faith as a system of what we've come to understand to be true about the world. And here's the thing. As Sharon Delos Parks argues so eloquently in her book, Big Questions, Worthy Dreams, we all have faith. We all make meaning and find meaning in our lives on this planet in one shape or another. Parks writes, we all search for a sense of connection, pattern, order, and significance. In our ongoing interaction with all of life, we puzzle about the fitting, truthful relationship among things. We search for ways of understanding our experience that make sense of both the expected and the unexpected in everyday life. So for some of us, our faith may be based in God and spirituality. Others may focus on science and reason, and others still may utilize all of the above, mixing God, spirituality, science, and reason into our meaning-making and meaning-finding process. But we all do it, whether we are conscious and intentional about doing it or not. We all seek to understand and make sense of the events and patterns in our lives. We all have our own version of faith. I like to think of it like this, that we all have a roadmap in our heads about how we make decisions in our lives. We all have a way that we process and understand the world and make decisions on a daily basis. Because while some decisions are big enough that we pause to think through them carefully, many more we just decide in the moment based on our map. We'd be paralyzed, in fact, if we didn't have this roadmap of how to navigate our lives. There'd be no way to quickly and easily make the hundreds of decisions we have to make every day if we didn't have some sort of general template to fall back on. It would in fact be a waste of time, right, if we didn't have some sort of template. I mean, I don't need to do a full ethical analysis every time I'm presented with the idea that gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, and queer people don't deserve equal rights. I've done a lot of thinking and research, I've used reason and religion to examine my own experiences, and I've come to the conclusion that LGBTQ people should be treated equally with everyone else. Now, those directions on my personal roadmap are pretty clear-cut, but they aren't unexamined. I just don't need to re-examine them every time the issue comes up. When a statement is made disparaging LGBTQ people or legislation is proposed, my faith understanding, my meaning-making on the issue, my beliefs, they're perfectly clear. I don't even need to check my roadmap. I know what it says, and I respond accordingly. These roadmaps we human beings all have, though, we come to them in different ways. Some people spend a lot of time carefully thinking through their maps, examining many different ideas and religious perspectives, and selecting routes that make sense to them. Others were raised in or chose one specific religious tradition and rely primarily on the guideposts of that tradition as they make the decisions in their lives. Others yet may just accept the general lessons about life we learn in our culture, with capitalism and materialism running their meaning-making show. And for all of us, our family of origin, the folks we grew up with, they tend to have a pretty strong influence on our roadmaps. Wherever we are on the spectrum of intentionality versus accepting what we've been taught, we all have a map. We all have a way that we make and find meaning in this world, and that map is our faith. Now note also that this map we have, our faith, it doesn't always match up exactly with the beliefs we claim to speak to the world. Our faith, the way we understand and make and find meaning in the world, it sometimes shows up more in our actions than it does in our words. Parks notes, most of us recognize that we human beings may or may not act in a manner that corresponds with what we say our ethics are. But human beings do act in ways that are congruent with what they ultimately trust as dependable and real, what makes sense at the end of the day, what we think we can really count on. We human beings act in ways that are congruent with how we make meaning. Now, Karen Haring then takes us one step further in her book, Writing to Wake the Soul, stating, in the original Buddhist texts, the Pali word for faith meant to place the heart upon. Haring says subsequently, consciously or unconsciously, with each day's living, we are choosing where, to whom, and to what we will offer our heart. In this way, faith emerges from our daily choices, whether quietly or boldly, joyfully bounding, mindfully marching, or gradually growing. So our faith, then, is ever present in our lives. It in fact dictates how we go about living our lives. It informs every decision we make. It influences every path we choose to go down. Our faith is our roadmap for life. What do your actions tell you about your faith roadmap? Take a moment now and think about how you live your life, the big decisions and the small ones. What is your faith based on? Materialism? Power? Justice? Peace? God? Reason? Love? All of these things and more can be part of our faith. What does your faith roadmap look like? Now, we all just took a snapshot, right? Most likely the faith roadmap you thought of was based on a relatively recent time period. If you were to look over your entire life, though, you'd probably see that the roadmap has changed over time. Which makes sense, right? We grow and evolve naturally as human beings. And really, wouldn't life be boring if our roadmap never changed? If we always took the same route, always thought the same thing, always did the same things in the same ways, nothing would ever change. And while some of us aren't huge fans of change, if nothing ever changed, most of us wouldn't be happy. And here at our church and our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition, we are all about the continual examination of our faith roadmaps. Our fourth principle states that we are on a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Part of being on a search means that we explore new ideas and perspectives that inform and sometimes even challenge our existing faith understanding. Some folks are happy with the safety that an unchanging faith roadmap provides. But most of us here, we appreciate the opportunity to examine our roadmap on a regular basis. Sometimes our reflections lead us to affirm that our map is pretty great the way we've currently constructed it. And sometimes we decide we need to make an update. Sometimes those updates are small alterations, and sometimes they're major course corrections. Our faith roadmaps, the way we find and make meaning in the world, they change and evolve over time. And it is our continued exploration of our individual faiths in the shared context of this church community. This is what makes us a religion, as opposed to merely a social club. Because there are some great social clubs out there, right? Some tremendous nonprofits that work for social justice and create positive change in the world. Rotary clubs all have service projects to which they're committed, and the Sierra Club, for example, works hard on environmental issues. Social justice and shared community are important parts of our faith. And we are a community of faith. We are a faith tradition. We are a religion because of our shared faith explorations. So hopefully at this point we've expanded our definition of faith a little bit. Faith doesn't have to mean lack of intelligent examination. It doesn't have to mean unquestioning blind acceptance of religious doctrine. It doesn't have to mean stifled questions and shut down answers. Our shared Unitarian Universalist faith exploration is one that values reason, relies on science, and leans heavily on logic and rationality. It also draws on our experiences. It seeks wisdom in a variety of sacred texts. It finds strength in the sage words of prophetic men and women, and it is transformed by the beauty and power of Mother Nature and our earth. No, faith for us is not something stationary and static. It is not something accepted blindly or left unexamined. Unitarian Universalist faith is something we explore and live with gusto. And our faith tradition does have some common threads. We are, in fact, to throw another metaphor into the mix, a tapestry of faith. While we each have our own roadmaps, as a church community, as a faith tradition, we have common strands or common threads that weave through the faith tradition we build together. There are many differences woven into the fabric too, of course, and those differences bring richness and depth to our faith exploration. But Unitarian Universalism, our faith tradition, is not just one big unruly lump of threads clumped into a ball. No, while our faith is woven together with an abundance of unique threads, there are shapes and patterns woven into the tapestry of our faith that are beautiful. And these patterns have names: hope, love, justice, equality, growth, healing, inclusivity. These are just some of the many common threads that weave the tapestry of our shared faith. Another common thread, of course, is our questions. Krista Tippett, in her book, Speaking of Faith, muses that, quote, faith is as much about the questions as it is about the answers. That sounds like a perfect fit for us Unitarian Universalists. We are indeed all about the questions. And of course, part of questioning, perhaps the very nature of questioning, involves doubt and uncertainty. As we saw on our reading this morning, doubt is the attendant of truth. As Robert Weston suggested, we must cherish our doubt, for in fact, doubt is also the touchstone of truth. It is an acid which eats away the false. Throughout our history, back before the merger when we were Unitarians and Universalists, questioning and doubt has been a central part of our faith tradition. The Unitarians, of course, were called that because they doubted the human formulation of the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Questioning and doubt are a vitally important part of our faith tradition. They do not diminish our faith, though. Rather, they support it, they deepen it, and they hone it. They make it stronger. Returning to Sharon Delos Parks in her book, Big Questions, Worthy Dreams, quote, A worthy faith must bear the test of lived experience in the real world. Our discoveries and disappointments, expectations and betrayals, assumptions and surprises. It is in the ongoing dialogue between self and the world, between community and lived reality, that meaning of faith takes form. So we need these questions. We need the doubt if we're going to have a meaningful faith experience. Now, questions and doubt, they can and do sometimes lead to uncertainty, and uncertainty can be uncomfortable. Some might even go as far to say, well, if you are uncertain, can you truly be practicing faith? And the response, of course, as we saw with doubt, is yes, absolutely. There is room for uncertainty in faith. In fact, it's necessary. Liberal theologian and Unitarian Universalist minister Paul Razor, in fact, wrote a whole book about this. His book on liberal theology in the 21st century is titled Faith Without Certainty. And it argues that uncertainty is actually one of the strongest points of our liberal faith. He says, liberal religion calls us to strength without rigidity, conviction without ideology, openness without laziness. It asks us to pay attention. Doubt and uncertainty can be about asking the hard and challenging questions, and they can be about being okay with sitting in a place of not knowing. Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Be patient toward all that is unresolved in your heart, and try and love the questions themselves. Live the questions now, and perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer." As Unitarian Universalists, we seek truth. We seek our truths, and we seek greater truths, and sometimes the truth in the moment is that we don't have the answers yet. And this speaks to the final important component of faith for today. It is unwritten in the Rilke quote, but there is a trust that Rilke is asking us to have, a trust that things will indeed turn out okay, even though in the moment we might be uncertain. And that trust is the final component of faith. Because while there is certainly trust that is based on experience and evidence, trust that is based in fact and reality, the trust that faith often asks us to trust with is trust without certainty, to trust despite the uncertainty. Faith is belief in what you cannot see or prove or touch. Faith is walking face first and full speed into the dark. If we truly knew all the answers in advance as to the meaning of life and the nature of God and the destiny of our souls, our belief would not be a leap of faith, and it would not be a courageous act of humanity. It would just be a prudent insurance policy. Or so says Elizabeth Gilbert in her book, Eat, Pray, Love. She speaks to this final component of faith, the leap into uncertainty. This leap often looks like hope and progress. As we saw in our story for all ages, Olympia Brown had faith in herself, despite so many people telling her she would never achieve her dream of ministry. You could argue, and I'm sure many people did to her, that her pursuit of the ministry was irrational or unreasonable or even illogical. She had faith, though. She trusted that if she did her best, that it would happen. And her faith in herself and in the world, despite all evidence to the contrary, was rewarded. Whether you have faith in God, faith in humanity, or faith in yourself, there is an aspect of hope, of trusting despite the unknowing. There are folks in our community who do not identify as spiritual, but some of them still say they have faith in humanity. And that's not a blind faith. They don't have faith in every aspect of humanity. For example, I'm guessing they don't have faith in the Tea Party. But they do have an overall hopeful faith. Faith that we as human beings will turn out all right, and that will make decisions that make the world turn out the way we hope for. There's a willingness there, though, to leap into and live in the uncertainty, to trust sometimes despite evidence to the contrary, and this is the final component of faith. Faith, our personal roadmap, is an intrinsic and important part of our lives. Communal faith exploration, the tapestry of meaning-making and meaning-finding that we weave together, defines us as a religious tradition. And faith in ourselves, faith in something good and true and loving, faith despite the uncertainty and doubt, is what is going to save our world. May your faith be an ever-evolving one. May you find joy and meaning in this faith community. May your faith be tempered and strengthened with the fire of doubt and uncertainty. May your faith and our shared faith community be ever unfolding. Amen.
What a rich and thoughtful message for today. As part of our responsible search for truth and meaning, we encourage thoughtful discourse. After the service, you are invited to join in discussion via Zoom with those online, or here at the church in the meditation garden, which is between the buildings in this direction. This congregation and the work that we do is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who contribute. The offering is a sacrament of the free church. You may place your donation in the plate on the way out. You can see a plate here and a plate there. Or use the QR code that might, yes, there we go, on the screen. Or donate by way of our website. As we enjoy the music now, the offering will be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. Gifts, may we use them wisely in the service of our congregation and our community. Our community has some news and announcements. First, I would like to mention that the guest at your table boxes that were introduced at the service last Sunday are just outside the room here. If you did not yet get a chance to pick one up, then you can do that through January 9th. And that, if you are not yet familiar with it, is a small cardboard box where you can place a gift every day and then bring it back to the church at the appropriate time. And that is distributed through a program, through the Guest at Your Table program, to people in need. Next announcement is, I would like to mention that the third Sunday service, or third Sunday beneficiary, is something we've done in this congregation in the past, and we're going to resume it again for 2022. And so Diane Lewis will be collecting your nominations or ideas for what organizations, typically in our community or perhaps in our state, should be the beneficiaries of our third Sunday plate offering. So it's on the third Sundays. Whatever is not designated as pledge goes to the third Sunday beneficiary. This is part of our stewardship to the community. So Diane Lewis is sitting right in the front row, and you can contact her or speak to her right after the service and nominate an organization to receive that. That is the extent of the community news that I have. I just want to take a moment also to thank Michelle Steiner for coordinating this beautiful service. I'm very touched by it. And to thank Florian for playing for us today. So amazing. Yes, yes. Thank you. Okay. I want to also mention or issue to you an invitation to learn about membership. So if you're not yet a member of this congregation, and if you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about joining us, please speak with a member of our membership team or to our board president, Christina Kruger. You can also email her at president@uubgky.org. As always, you can find more community news by reading the monthly newsletter and the weekly email updates. Here at the church, you can also look at the bulletin boards and pick up a hard copy of the newsletter. We have a Facebook page and we have a beautiful website, so lots of places to connect with us and learn a little bit more. Okay, so we have more music, more beautiful music, and I'll let you introduce that. Yeah.
So we invite you to hum along to hymn 1008 in the teal hymnal. We will only do one verse as a warning.
Amazing
Thank you, Michelle and Christine. That was beautiful. We have a final reading at this point, and Mark Robinson is going to come give the final reading.
Russ Funk, Kujan coordinator and member of First UU Louisville, ended our email thread by saying, "Thank you, Natalie, for your thoughtful and heartfelt conversation starter. I think you raised some important questions and points of discernment about what we, as UUs, think about faith. I find myself feeling and acting in line with what you and Diane have come to, that faith is not necessarily in a higher power, or God, goddess, or the power of the universe, although for me, this is a part of it. But faith is about my faith, frankly, in us. I firmly believe that the power of us is greater than the sum of our parts. That is, our collective power is magnified, not just additive, to the power of any individual. And there is a power, a sense of community, connection, that I do not have the language to explain or even truly understand. There is a leap of faith in my experience in working with us, a leap that I nearly always grow from. Thanks for asking the question, raising the point, and for this conversation."
We now bid for farewell to those who have joined us online. We hope you found this service meaningful, and we invite you to join us again. Be well and go in peace.